Now, although I've designed this course to be an advanced Omnisphere course, I am going to take this tutorial video here to explain the basics of the synthesizer. Alright, so this is the interface for the plugin. We have the patch browser on the left over here. Now I'm not going to use this at all, so I'm going to click over here to tuck it away. We're going to just focus on the main interface for the synthesizer. So we get up to 8 different patches per multi. So this is a multi. You can click over here and save a multi, clear multi, or initialize a multi. I'm going to initialize it and hit OK. So now when I play a note, you get this very simple basic sawtooth tone. Now you'll notice that there was only activity on that first patch. The other slots for this multi are completely empty. So I can have 8 patches running simultaneously in one multi, which is pretty fascinating. I can click on multi over here to look at all those 8 patches and adjust the level, spanning. We can also send it to the 4 aux tracks here. So that is kind of like the mixer view for the different patches in Omnisphere. We have this effects tab where we can adjust the effects for the different aux tracks. There's also a master section here. I'll go into a little bit more detail in a later tutorial on the signal flow for effects specifically. But for now, let's just look at the interface. There's a live mode here. I'm not going to talk too much about this. We're going to just focus on sound design. There's a stack mode. This we'll definitely explore. You can stack individual patches in a multi together if you want. So we will explore that. But that's the main concept of Omnisphere. You can have 8 patches running simultaneously in one multi. Now what's happening in each patch? So let's say patch number 1. Currently it says default patch. Within each patch we get 4 different layers. So layer A, B, C, and D. Each of these layers can be activated or deactivated by clicking on this little blue LED underneath here. So currently it's active, but if I turn it off, it stops producing sound. So you get 4 different layers that can be activated simultaneously in each patch. So that's pretty cool. Now within each layer, we get additional parameters over here. And once you understand how one layer works, all the other layers are pretty much identical. So within here, we have 4 main sections: the modulation section, oscillator section, filter section, and envelope section. Each section has certain parameters on the surface over here, but you can also click on the zoom plus button to zoom in to look at detailed parameters for that section. So we're now looking at the mod matrix zoom. I can click this minus zoom button to zoom out of there, and we're back into this main interface view. Same for the oscillator. I can click the plus button, adjust certain parameters, and then hit the minus button to zoom out of there. Some of those parameters will be available on this interface view, but sometimes you may want to go inside and discover certain parameters that are not there on that surface level. Alright, so that's the oscillator section. Filter section, same deal, plus button, zoom in here. And interestingly, if you zoom out, it looks like we just have one filter, but when you zoom in, you see that there are actually 2 filters in here. They can be run in series or parallel. Alright, I'm going to zoom out of the filter section. Lastly, the envelope section here. So we get an amp envelope, a filter envelope, which modulates the filter cutoff here. And then we get 4 additional envelopes that can be assigned to whatever we want. And of course, I can hit the plus button here and look at those envelopes in a lot more detail and manipulate them and customize them a lot more as well. Alright, so that's the main section for each layer. There's also a main section. So here we're seeing all the parts together, kind of like a mini mixer view like we saw over here. So this was the mixer view for all the different patches. And then here we have a main view for the 4 different layers. You can see what's loaded in here. Actually, let's talk about this. So every sound generator in Omnisphere, or specifically in each layer, can be either a synth, which could have any of these waveforms, or it could be a sample. And if I hit the plus button here, we have some additional controls for the sound source, but I can also click over here in this blank area and load in one of these samples. All right, let's close out of here. Let's close out the patch browser. It always wants to open up. Going back into the main section, so those are the 4 different parts we're seeing here. So you can adjust the levels for each part over here. So not as detailed as a mixer section, but you do get a quick overview of everything. Going back into the main section, so these are the 4 different layers we're seeing here. There is another filter. Now this filter is independent from the filter in each of the different parts. So that's why it's called the master filter. Very basic controls, low pass versus high pass, cutoff and resonance. Some additional master controls here for the entire patch. Now there's an effects section inside here as well. We get 4 different chains that we can create, and we can also set up aux effects. Now keep in mind, these auxes are totally different from these auxes over here. So it gets pretty in-depth when it comes to effects processing in Omnisphere. So that's why I'm going to talk about the signal flow in a later tutorial. But right now we're just looking at the overall interface. So we're looking at the effects. And then lastly, we have the ARP section here. And this is a very fantastic, very in-depth arpeggiator section. So we will definitely use this in a later tutorial. Lastly, there's this really fun orb section to kind of experiment and play around and randomize an existing patch. Alright, so that's a very quick overview of Omnisphere. In the next tutorial, we'll dive a little bit deeper and understand the signal flow.